I give a lot of credit and influence to my mother. That single mom um, helped shape my personal work ethic. She worked 3 jobs to send me to a private school because she thought that education was better than
Mm.
the education we
Wow.
had access to in the neighborhood. She used to say things all the time, like education would open doors that ignorance would keep closed. And she said,
Mm.
education is your way out of North Philadelphia. Education is your way out of this underprivileged, underserved, impoverished environment that we happen to live in.
Welcome to the On the Path podcast, a conversation on navigating life. Join Chris Coker and Colin Creech as they have honest conversations with fellow travelers on the path. In each episode, they explore the physical, mental, and spiritual health aspects of the whole self, striving for personal accountability and a strong community. Gain insights, learn from our mistakes, and hear from guests who have mastered these areas. Step on the path, embracing every challenge and success along the way. See you on the path.
Chris, we have a very special guest on the podcast today. His name
Yes,
is
we
Keith
do.
Palmer. He's a close friend of both of ours, absolutely a mentor in my life. I know yours as well, and someone we both look up to. Uh, I, what can you say about him? He was born and raised in Philadelphia. He gives a lot of credit to his early development, but also the choices he made in life to his mom, and this was this is just truly a well-rounded but very humble individual.
Yeah, absolutely. He's such a good friend, great mentor to the both of us. As far as his pedigree, he's got a bachelor in pre-law. He's got a master of science in information technology as well as an MBA. After he got out of college, he served as a Marine Corps officer. Did that for about 5 years before transitioning into the corporate workforce. Fast forward to today, now he's a global leader for a Fortune 50 company. So very, very incredible career that Keith has had.
Yeah, and I'm clearly seeing a trend here too. He's a board member for a really amazing organization called the Travis Manion Foundation,
Lately.
and truly just goes to, how important having a strong community is, but also people like Keith in your community. He's an amazing family man. He talks about his kids and making sure he spends time with them. But there's one last important part that we need to highlight before we jump into this episode.
Yes, last but certainly not least, he is a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan, which, by the way, is the second one we've had. We also
I
had Ryan
know.
McCool, so we need to make sure the
Yeah.
two of them have a conversation to suss out who the bigger Eagles fan is. But he was rocking the gear.
I'm seeing a joint podcast in the future, but without further ado, a very special podcast with Keith Palmer.
Let's dive right in.
Welcome back to On the Path podcast. We have a special guest today, and it's Keith Palmer. You just heard about him in the intro, but again, I've known him for years. He's a friend, he's a mentor, and somebody that I truly look up to. And I know, Chris, you think the same.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a pleasure. These are fun. I love really every conversation we get to have on the show, but it's extra special when it's a friend and somebody we've known for a long time. So welcome to the show. Really excited to have you.
Thank you, Chris, Colin. Delighted to be here. Really appreciate the invitation and looking forward to the conversation.
Well, as we talked about before we started recording, we always start off with a very tough, deep question that just really gets to the heart of the situation. So, you've seen battlefields and boardrooms. Tell me, which one is scarier on a Monday morning?
Boardrooms, definitely.
Elaborate a little. I had a feeling that was the answer, but yeah.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
I honestly, I feel like, you all can relate, the adversity you face and deal with in the military, there's nothing else that can prepare you for, walking into, quote, hostile situations in the boardroom. I'll tell you, people come off the weekend and at times, they're just still on their weekend. So those conversations can be tough, so to speak. So just trying to re-engage, reconnect, pick up where you left off and move the agenda forward, can be a challenge. But in all seriousness, certainly nothing like the challenge of service in adverse situations.
Yeah.
True,
Yeah.
true. And
That like
I
quiet Monday morning lethargy is much more intimidating than like controlled chaos. Like that you can respond to and do
yeah,
something with. But that Monday morning where nobody's saying anything, you're like, all right, am I the one that's gonna have to like try to amp people up? And
well,
That's
there's a
it, Chris.
tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a tool or SOP in the military for almost everything, right? You go in there and you don't know what question or curveball could come your way, or maybe the mood sometimes as well. So
all right,
I
Absolutely.
respect the
Yeah.
answer.
that's
Yeah,
right. That's right.
yeah, yeah. I respect the answer. I'm not going to press it further, Chris. I'm done.
No, that's awesome. And good on you, Keith. I love our icebreakers. It's just a good chance to kind of well, first of all, throw a question at you that maybe people aren't asking you on a daily basis. Obviously, you get asked a lot of questions. But what we like to do is usually the first one is at this point, I'd say pretty expected for all our viewers out there. We really want to drive into what's an experience that shaped you, right? Colin and I, like he said, we've known you for a long time. We've got to hear some of your stories, but I think it's a good way to help everybody understand just kind of the vantage point you're coming from and the way that you just operate in the world. So I'd love to hear from you on just one experience that just comes to mind and how that has shaped you into who you are now.
Absolutely. I could certainly appreciate the question. And you talked about the introduction and wearing my It's a Philly thing shirt here on the night of the season opener for the Philadelphia Eagles. So shout out to Philly. But I have to tell you, growing up in inner city Philadelphia, particularly North Philadelphia, just down the road from down the street from Temple University, I saw a lot of things. The experience that shaped me was raised by a single mom. My father was not in my life, and I lived in a underserved, impoverished area where drugs were prevalent and a lot of crime was very prevalent also. And unfortunately, I saw a childhood friend killed on the corner in front of me. And I can honestly say neither of us were doing the right thing at that time. And it's unfortunate that he lost his life, but I had to believe that my life was spared for some reason. And with that being said, I decided that I would focus on more positive things and go in a different direction.
It's there's always a trend because that also could be a decision point. I feel like sometimes too that that upbringing, the traumatic experience. I wonder, how did you make a decision to choose the life that you did, a life of service? Because sometimes those situations happen, and I feel like maybe more often or not, people go a different route. But you chose to then go to college. I believe you boxed in college, I believe, but then you chose to serve in the military. So how did you make that choice from that experience?
Well, I give a lot of credit and influence to my mother. That single mom helped shape my personal work ethic. She worked 3 jobs to send me to a private school because she thought that education was better than the education we had access to in the neighborhood. She used to say things all the time, like education would open doors that ignorance would keep closed. And she said, education is your way out of North Philadelphia. Education is your way out of this underprivileged, underserved, impoverished environment that we happen to live in. And she would stress, you're going to college, it's either college or the military. So those were your 2 options. And we didn't have the money for college. And I actually was working with an enlisted recruiter at the time I was graduating high school. And I was fortunate enough to get a partial scholarship to play football at a small state university in Pennsylvania. And I went back to that recruiter and said, well, I'm thinking about going to college now. I have some resources that will pay for it. And that individual, you talk about people that just shape your life. That individual, I'll never forget this individual. His name was Staff Sergeant Gale. If I could use names on this recording
Yeah, no,
platform
absolutely.
here.
Shout out, Staff Sergeant.
He said, well, if you're still interested in the Marine Corps, now that you're pursuing a degree or interested in pursuing a degree, let me tell you about what it takes to become an officer in some of our alternative programs. And it's just about being educated and understanding, because you don't know what you don't know. At the time, I thought you go in as a private and aspire to work your way up to the highest rank. And I didn't understand the difference between enlisted and officer. And fortunately, I did go to college and did pursue the officer programs that came available and became the first officer in my family. But back to your question around, I was fortunate enough to just have people in my life that, were able
Yeah.
to provide some influence. And that's not that I always listened or I wasn't resistant to some of that, but those are some of the things that I decided to be receptive to. And education was a big part of it that I believe my mom was right. Education opened doors that ignorance will keep closed. Not that I had a world-class education, but I do think I had a quality education that gave me exposure to greater things outside of North Philadelphia.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you. I love that story. I think it's outstanding, and I appreciate your gratitude too, Keith. Like, yeah, there are a lot of good people in your life that help get you there. There's also a degree of like you maybe it was a little bit delayed as a kid, but you got your head on straight and you listened to them along the way. And I'm curious. I want to stay on your journey into the Marine Corps for at least a second more here, because was that so? Obviously, there was this. All right, it's college. How do we get to a place where we can pay for college? Maybe the military can help do this. How deliberate were your choices as you started navigating into the Marine Corps? Like, did you go in into a plan where you're like, all right, I think I want to go on the officer side. These are some of the schools that I want to pursue once I'm active duty. Like, or is it just like you're just rolling with the punches? Because the reason I'm asking, Keith, is I was an Army brat, right? So like for me, when I went into the Army, like I'm very, very familiar with the dynamic and how it all worked versus somebody on your end. It was like uncharted territory, right? So I'm curious, like how much of your plan was baked versus you were just rolling with it as you started.
Uh, Candidly and honestly, none of it was baked, Chris.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah.
None of it was baked. Again, you don't know what you don't know, figuring it out along the way. Honestly, my introduction to the Marine Corps was great, but some of the challenges we went through were, some of the hardest things that I ever did. But I will tell you, I went in, and I'm gonna date myself here. I went in thinking I wanted to be a JAG officer. My undergrad degree is in pre-law with minors in English and philosophy, and I was enamored by the movie A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth, and I thought I was going to have to be a lawyer in the Marine Corps. And I was a physical guy. I played football, box, as Colin mentioned. And I met, a lieutenant colonel, when we were going through, some of the basic training, particularly in, OCS, who said, you need to be in front of Marines. Like we want, more diverse infantry officers. And I did enjoy the physicality of infantry and things of that nature. But, you know, I really wanted to go to law school, took the LSAT, got accepted in law school, thought, the JAG officer was the path for me. I would be an officer, first officer in the family. I would also pursue the lawyer. And long story short, I did not get the the law degree. And I ended up serving, in the infantry.
That's awesome.
What's harder, football practice, a collegiate athlete football practice, or infantry officer course?
Without a doubt, the infantry officer course. Let me tell you a quick story, quick aside here.
I knew
So,
the answer.
so I will tell you, I was not grateful. You hear a lot of gratitude in my voice, grateful for the partial football scholarship and the money I received to go to college that provided me that opportunity. But I will tell you, I was not a big time recruit out of Philadelphia. I got
Oh, come
the
on.
opportunity to play D2 football based on natural ability and talent. I was that kid that went into football camp every year, was shaped, spent 3 weeks, working to get in shape and trying to, seek a starting position at running back or linebacker. And
Yep.
what I learned is, so going into, the platoon leader class, I went to training during the summer months while I was in college. And I had an agreement with my coach, who knew I wasn't goofing around, I would be late for football camp. But I came back in some of the best shape I've ever been in, and realized that if I'd have just worked during the off season, and kids are different today. I have a son now who's interested in football, and we put the work in during the off season to prepare, to be the best athlete he could be. I did not have that mentality. I did not put that work in, and I come back to your question. Certainly, Marine Corps training, and particularly the infantry officer course, was harder than football camp.
Yeah, 100%. I get a
I
test
believe
in the
it.
Army
They
side
actually
too.
let you
Yeah, like
sleep probably a little bit in college. So.
It's
That's
all a
it.
maturation process, right?
Yeah,
Maturation process,
yeah.
though, right? You just don't know. I keep using this and maybe overusing it. You don't know what you don't know.
yeah, that's right. And Keith, you said something that made me think of my oldest son. Like you're right. Like some of the things that kids today are thinking about, we were not thinking about. Like my son came home the other day. He's in football. He's just started his freshman year in high school. He's on the JV team. He's played modified for a few years now. And lately he's been talking about his mindset. Mine, that wasn't like even a word in my vocabulary, but then I hear his friends talk about it too. So it's just this relatively new. So I don't have like I guess a ton of insight into where that is coming from, but just like an observation that I've seen recently that I think like the generation that our sons are in, there is this emphasis on mindset and mental strength. And I got to say, like, I really appreciate it because much like you, I just wasn't thinking about that. It was more like, I'm just going to go. I was a wrestler. I'm going to go and do my wrestling thing. Like, I'm going to either win or lose. Like, mindset just wasn't a thing. This idea of growth as a person was not in my head as a young teen, and it is absolutely in the head of younger kids today, which is like it's super encouraging to be observing that as a parent.
It's very encouraging, and you know, fortunately, I speak for my kid. He has access to more resources than I did. Then you look at the competitiveness of the other kids around him, and we talk about goals all the time. So,
Yeah, yeah,
I got some titles and some accolades in life, but the titles I hold highest is our husband and father. And I talk to my son all the time because I just want to be a father and give him the knowledge and advice that I wish I had a father around to give me at the time. And we talk about goals all the time, the things you want to be. And like every kid, he wants to be in the NFL and, professional football player and things of that nature. But my response is, does your work ethic match your goals? Okay. And if they don't,
good question.
what are we going to do about it?
Yeah,
I just had
yeah,
I'm the only person in this little virtual forum that doesn't have kids, but I just had this thought of Keith as my father doing a annual GNO process. We're sitting down writing the GNOs, and then end of the year I get a performance review. And I know you're not doing that, but it is again goal. Even the
Actually,
concept
I
of
am, Colin.
goals.
I am. I'm
Crap.
the
All
same
right.
person
It's is
in
it
and
calendar
outside of work.
year? Is it calendar year? How does it? It's school year, but no. I mean I have to give. Again, you mentioned it, but like I never heard the word mindset. Goals you hear
yeah,
about, right? But like the things that that everyone has access to today just because of social media or whatever it may be, it's really exciting to see because I know there's always the negatives about it, but the access, I mean, your son probably, heard it from you, Chris, but at the same time, like he can go Google mindset. That's even a thing. I know there's more than that. People listening, you can go watch a YouTube video. There's more than that too, but just saying it's incredible. And I'm excited to see what also comes, for the future generations, because there is so much more access and ability to develop yourself without, having somebody right there to help you along the way sometimes, but
yeah,
better to have a
yeah.
strong community to help you do it.
So
Absolutely.
let me pull in, Keith, so on the community side, so you hit on a few times that like there were a lot of people in your younger years that were there to kind of support you and put you on the path ultimately that you walked on. You are definitely paying it forward. You're on board for the Travis Manion Foundation, which is an incredible organization. Obviously, we've known for a long time, and so you're you have been in your adult life very, very active in community building as well. So I just kind of want to give you a chance to kind of speak to our listeners a little bit on the importance of community building, the role that that's played in your life. If there's anything else you want to add from the story you already told, and why is it so important for you to play a role in building around your local community and within your sphere of influence?
Short answer is, guys, and I'll elaborate, is that I would not be here speaking with you today if someone hadn't invested in me. And I think it's important to pay it forward. But I told you the story about Stash on the Gate. I told you, the quotes from my mom, and there are others along the way, coaches, and it's a choice around listening. And I think it's so important to invest in our youth and
Yeah,
future leaders. And this is a time where it's most needed, because these are the people that will be the leaders of the future and leading our country, our corporations, leaders in our
yeah,
community. and we have to make that investment in them. Now, the Travis Manion Foundation is a phenomenal veteran service organization that I really enjoy being a part of. It's funny how, tell you the quick story here is at many years ago, I just wanted to run the Marine Corps Marathon. The Marine Corps Marathon was closed. And a friend and mentor of mine introduced me to the Travis Manion Foundation to run with Team Travis and Brennan. I did run the Marine Corps Marathon successfully. I'm a marathon finisher, not a
Nice.
marathon winner.
Well done.
Okay. But more importantly, I found out more about the Travis Manion Foundation and its service in the community, to the families of fallen veterans, and the focus on character does matter, our investment from a Travis Manion Foundation standpoint in future leaders.
Yeah.
And it's so important. And I think that you can teach a lot of things, but one of the most important things that we could do is, teach character and integrity, to our youth. And I think leadership, starts with humility and ends with integrity. And again, I stress that these are our future leaders. And I've been fortunate that the Travis Manion Foundation, as I got more involved, learned more about the organization and ways to contribute, the Travis Manion Foundation gave me the platform to speak to our youth and high school and different community events. And then more importantly, have a specific focus in going back into the communities of at-risk youth like the one I grew up in, and have different conversations around making a positive contribution to society, focusing on character development, being a person of integrity, and really thinking about the person that you are today and the person you want to be. And again, I'm very passionate about it. And the primary reason is I believe someone invested in me and took the time. Like Staff Sergeant Gale didn't have to tell me about the officer programs. He could have just said, "Oh, that's one contract I'm, not going to get," or he could have been focused on enlisting in the Marine Corps. But he took the time to educate me, and that's just one example. But there are others in my life where I felt contributed to this opportunity to have this conversation with you two.
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate that. And Colin, if you don't mind, I wanna build on that because I've got one other question because I think you're alluding to something that I really want to unpack here, Keith. You said leadership starts with humility and ends with integrity, right? And so like here at with On the Path, we spent a lot of time talking about, as Colin mentioned before, the different aspects of strength, and then there's this underpinning of personal accountability and community. And what's interesting about the quote that you said around humility, leadership starting with humility and ending with integrity, there's this undertone of personal accountability, right? Like that is a critically important component for you. And I kind of just want to stay on that for a second and unpack it. Like the importance of holding yourself personally accountable to maximize your ability to be a community builder. I'm just curious, like I just kind of want to stay on this for a second and see some of your thoughts, like how important it is you to hold yourself accountable as you're engaging with the community, especially with the youth, right? Especially with them, like this idea of having to lead from the front. So I just wanted to parse that out a little bit. One, great quote, but two, to see what your other thoughts were.
Absolutely. So accountability is certainly a part of my leadership philosophy. I believe the leadership philosophy consists of a few things. It's one of extreme ownership, consisting of high level accountability, compliant customer and stakeholder engagement, and then investing or developing people that are either on your team or in your circle. When I come back and focus and zoom in on the word accountability, or accountability, what it means to me, I think it starts with first accepting responsibility. And when you take on these roles, for positions, different leadership positions in your workspace, in the community, and things of that nature, there's a responsibility that comes along with it. And accountability starts with first accepting responsibility for the different things that you commit to. And that's where, I anchor back to. And when I commit to something, or I get out of bed and understand what the responsibility is on a daily basis, I hold myself at a high level, and the people that are also contributing at a high level of accountability to be able to get the job done or deliver on the commitment that was made.
I think there's this underlying thread in it all too with the strong community, is the part of who's in that community. It started with your mom. She cared. That's why she said those things, and probably, financially had to struggle to put you through private school and really try and one, tell you what, she knew would be good, but at the same time, she had to act and sacrifice to help you get there. But after that, it's just the same thing with community. It's, the personal accountability, but you actually have to care. And I have to say, something I just truly appreciate about you is anytime I see you, it's just this big hug, but always like, how are you really doing? It's not how are you doing? Like, hey, how's it going? It's how are you really doing? And I know that you truly care, and you're paying it forward too, because strong community, it's not a bunch of muscle heads in a circle. Like, we're talking about, people that truly care about each other, that, every once in a while we need to be accountable, but at the same time we need people to help us get there. It's not something we can ever do alone, life in general. But the caring part is something I've seen in your story that we haven't talked about, but also something I've personally witnessed and experienced, and I greatly appreciate you for that.
The feeling is mutual, to you both. And, I think, I get a lot of credit for mentoring and, giving back, but honestly, it fuels me, and there's a mutual exchange. Um, and we foster, connection over the years with the two of you, and I get a lot from it also, for many reasons. Wanting to see, people do well, again, coming back to the investment in people, but I think also, we all have a story, we all have a journey, we're all human, and have our problems. And I'm certainly not an individual that's above reproach. It's not that I haven't made any mistakes. When I stand in front of our youth and talk about character, I'm also vulnerable about some of the mistakes I've made. And fortunately, I haven't made any mistakes that I couldn't recover from. But the important thing is really perhaps being able to help an individual prevent making mistakes or recover from a mistake that was made, so that they can move forward and continue to be productive. But please know the feeling is mutual, guys. And like I said, I
Thank you.
really appreciate the invitation.
Yep. So building upon, you're doing so much, on the board of the Travis Manion Foundation, you're a corporate executive. You made time for us before the Phillies game, which is obviously, or Philadelphia Eagles. Sorry.
Thank you.
I know
I was
there's
going
a
to correct you. I was
difference.
glad you finished.
Apologies.
Yes. Thank you.
Apologies. I watched the sports. But how do you do it all? Like, how do you take care of yourself? How do you, put up with these stressors? I know you're an amazing father. I know you're always making time to be there for your kids and their activities too. And your husband, a great husband. How do you do it? Like, how do you make time for all that, and Keith, and taking care of Keith too throughout all that?
There is, a piece of that, thank you, Colin, for being, there's a piece of that to be selfish with. Like, I do, again, I use the word investment. I do need to make sure I get adequate rest. I take on these responsibilities because I do care and I want to. And like I said, husband and father are the titles I hold highest because they contribute to legacy, right? And I come back to all the experiences I've had, not knowing my father. And I want to be the best father I could be. Not that I'm perfect, and the best husband I could be, again, because I do have a supportive and caring wife. But, I tend to gravitate towards things that, help me be a better me, help me contribute more positively. So there is a note of selfishness in that, again, love my kids, just want to invest in them and want them to be the best people that they can be, contribute to society. I think, I can't be all things to all people, but organizations like the Travis Manion Foundation, there's a mutual benefit there. It gives me the platform to serve in the community and continue to service after taking off the uniform. But also, there is, and I know being around such great people that make up that organization, and that family has embraced me and have, allowed me to do some different things to contribute as a board member and keep the organization moving forward. So, to be very honest and candid, there's, I try to make sure there's a mutual exchange in the things that I commit to and I'm a part of.
Yeah. When you have so this one's selfishly for me, Keith, because I'd like to say I'm a student of learning how to be more self-aware. To me, it's one of the best attributes a person can have, because if you're self-aware, you're unlimited opportunities to workshop and grow as a person. And I think I'll credit you, and I don't say this lightly because I really think it's a difficult thing for somebody to be good at. But I do think that you are a pretty self-aware individual. So I want your thoughts on do you see it coming? Like when you have stressors at work or
Mm.
derailers, like, do you see that coming when you're like, all right, like I'm dealing with a lot right now, and I know that I have to do a couple of things for myself to kind of recharge and hit that reset button? Or do you find yourself surprised, like it just kind of happens? You're like, oh shoot, like I'm kind of in it right now, and I gotta get back, get back in the saddle. I just kind of want to see your thoughts on that, because I'd love to see what you do to address it too.
Yeah, I do see it coming, Chris, to answer your question, because I know I pride myself on being self-aware, because I think that's one of the hardest things to teach. And I've
Mhm.
learned a lot about
Yep.
myself over the years in moments where I wasn't as astute and self-aware. I do
Yep.
see it coming, and I will tell you that I know my strengths, right? I know that I love people, I love leadership, and building high-performing teams and things of that nature. But arguably, I'm probably not, you know, the most technical guy in the world or the most analytical guy, and I need those resources to be able to be a better leader and things of that nature. So I do see it coming. I will tell you, when feel extended or overcommitted and things of that nature, my inherent response is to withdraw just for a bit to recharge.
Mhm.
So there are times where, don't take it personal, guys, where I'm delayed on a text response, or, because I shut off the phone, or, I just put it away. And, because these things drain you, right?
Oh
Communication is
yeah. Oh
constant,
yeah.
right? So there are times where, I'll withdraw, or I'll say, I really need quality sleep, because,
Yeah.
I haven't been getting a lot of it and things of that nature. So I need to go focus and go sleep in a dark room and things of that nature. And,
Mm.
I'm in an environment where, I have that support, and, my family understands that, and I can do that. So my natural response is to withdraw, and when I see it coming, because, I do feel the stressors, and, when I get extended or, overcommitted, that's when you make mistakes. And again, not that I don't make mistakes, but the point is we want to try to avoid as many as possible,
Uh,
and leverage it.
I, I know you said earlier you're not perfect, but you are by far the best stressed person consistently that I've ever met. So just got to put it out there. If you're ever having a bad day, I'll never know because it's polished. That's for sure. So, got to give credit where credit's due. It's it's a clear strength. I would give it a 100%, 10 out of 10, best dressed.
Flattery will get you everywhere with me.
Oh, good,
I'll tell
good,
you.
good, good. Yes, good. That'll be good for our father son annual GNO discussion, goals and objectives conversation. So,
Absolutely. I do try not to wear my emotions, guys. Like
Yeah.
and not to put on a facade, but
Mm.
I think a smile is a person's signature. The eyes truly are the window to the soul. You don't have to get all cliche here, but I think that it's important, to try to be in control of your happiness. And when you
Mhm.
wake up every day, I think everything else is manageable. Because some people don't wake up every day. And you gotta approach life in that way and really be deliberate. You're gonna have a bad
Yeah.
day, and you
Sure.
got to figure out a way, to persevere, fight through it, and things of that nature, and keep going. And that's the resilience aspect of the different experiences that we've had, right? Military, growing up in environments like we just talked about, people counting on you, things of that nature. How do you push through and demonstrate that resilience and keep going? And the big part of it is, the next day is coming. So, keep
Yep.
moving forward.
That's right. That's right. Let me ask you one, Keith. This is we hit on this even before we started recording. And I'm gonna actually read this one because I didn't have the whole quote memorized, but I was obviously we prep ahead of time, and I saw something that you said online, and I'm just gonna read it because I want to unpack this one. So, leading with purpose will not only facilitate success, but also inspire the next generation of leaders. Now that back half, I think yes, to the point we were having earlier, I think that's a big one. The piece that I want to linger on for a second is that purpose leads to success. Right. One of the things Colin and I talk about a lot on this show um, is purpose, trying to live a purposeful life. Now, I think success means a lot of things to a lot of people. So that is almost, I think, in the context of your quote, for me, that's the irrelevant piece, right? We all define success in different ways. But what I really want to learn from you on is why purpose is so important to whatever our definition of success is. Why is that a requirement?
I think purpose-driven leadership is, absolutely the key to success. One, it allows you to bring your authentic self, to whatever leadership position that you're in. Additionally, I think that everyone wants to be a part of something bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
Um, when you think about what gets you out of bed every day, and again, not to get all cliche, but I told you my undergrad degree is in English and philosophy, and I
Well
love
spoken, well
Nietzsche.
spoken.
I
Oh
love
yeah.
Oh,
Nietzsche,
there we go.
who says he or she who has a why to live for can bear almost anyhow. And when you understand why you're doing things, why you're in front of people, what is the objective, being mission oriented, and embracing the people that contribute to that mission, that is the formula for success. So I come back to your
Yeah.
question. I really think purpose driven leadership is the key to success. And more importantly, I think when you can connect great people, purpose, and passion, and understand the reason why people are connected and mission focused in a way that will not entertain failure.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I'm gonna lead the witness here for everybody who's watching and listening to this. Like everything that Keith just said requires self-awareness to be able to do, right? Like this is why self-awareness is so important so that we can actually ask ourselves, like, why am I doing that thing that I'm doing? And then to take it a step further, Keith, to build on what you just said, to then be able, on the leadership side, to then be able to articulate that back to the people that we are leading, right? Because there's a degree of ownership on you as the leader, me as the leader, Colin, whoever is in these different positions of leadership where you have the opportunity to impact other lives. It's incumbent on you to also help lead and guide the understanding of the why. And I just think that that's critically important. So love the answer. I think that's a huge one.
I was gonna say more, but I just think it goes back to our conversations we've been having with Dr. Free, with many others, like just the importance of purpose. And it just hearing your story, Keith, too, your purpose has changed over the years. It was service, it was family, and now you're doing it all three, it seems like at once with, your job, with your involvement with the Travis Manion Foundation, and also being there and being first and foremost, a father and a husband. And it's really truly inspiring, I have to say, watching you for years, but knowing you the same amount of times, it's just you're so easy to work for, but at the same time also easy to cheerlead behind the scenes for as well, because it's always a positive impact for everything that I see you do, and I truly appreciate you for that.
Like I said, the feeling is mutual. I think if if you look around in your life and you see the people that are in your circle and that are connected to you, you get an idea of who you are as a person, right? And that's just the reality. So, please know, the feeling is mutual, guys, and I mean that sincerely. I think it's important, to have people in your life for different reasons, serving different purposes. I tend to think of it as a personal board of directors. Please know you guys are on that personal board of directors. I quote a lot, I say a lot, I read a lot, guys, but at the end of the day, I think that, being our authentic selves is so important, in a world that is, kind of full of the facade and, what you want people to see and the story you want to tell and the message you want to deliver. Just, authenticity is just so important. So I need you guys to know that feeling is mutual.
I have to say, Chris, I'll let you wrap it up, but one last serious question. We had Ryan McCool on the podcast. He said he was the biggest Eagles fan. So any comments to that, but also predictions for the game tonight? I know we got to let you go in a second, but just want to know, are you the bigger fan than Ryan, but also who's winning?
So let me address that for Ryan. And so Ryan knows I am the bigger Eagles fan. So I'm so committed to the Eagles. One, I do bleed green, but more importantly, I only bring Eagles fans into the world. Okay. So my kids are Eagles fans. They came home in Eagles beanies and blankets. Okay. Decorated their rooms in Eagles, and they only know that one team to root for. So, okay, my commitment, to the Eagles is far beyond what Ryan could ever aspire to, because I only bring Eagles fans into the world.
That's hilarious.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had to go deep there for a second, Chris. I mean, but I'm guessing then based off that, you're predicting an Eagles victory tonight. So we
So
don't.
I am predicting an Eagles victory. Obviously, I am extremely optimistic in the expectations of how for the Eagles, not only for this game, but for the
This
season.
season.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to say, I just want to see an Eagles Super Bowl in my lifetime. That has come to fruition. Now I need to see another one, and embrace it more, with the family here because, we're Eagle fans. Let me give one more point to being an Eagle fan. I married a girl from Texas, a lady from Texas, I should say,
Holler.
whose
Yeah.
family is, historically Dallas Cowboy fans. And
Okay.
she is my life partner and has certainly, she certainly compliments me. But I did tell her, if you want the ring, we have to put becoming an Eagles fan in the marriage box. So
None of
she
this
is an
house
Eagles.
divided
Yeah.
nonsense.
No,
This-
none of this house divided. She's an Eagles fan. Okay, she will proudly tell you that.
Yeah.
She wears Eagles slippers and T-shirts. Everybody gets. We have a long, history of photos. Cheering on the Eagles over the years. Our Eagles
Amazing.
pajamas around Christmas. So to convert a Texan Dallas Cowboy fan, just goes to demonstrate, my commitment to the Eagles.
Yeah.
For everybody
Why
listening,
isn't that on your bio? Converted a Dallas fan. Like that's something worthy of a professional bio, Keith.
yeah, we should have. We're gonna have to re-record his intro, honestly. But I will have to say though, being from Dallas, Texas, I don't watch sports, but I knew just for my personal safety when I lived just north of Philadelphia that it was best to, be caught either in an Eagles, hat or whatever people wear that watch these sports, but also to never speak that I'm from Dallas unless it's in a safe place. So I think that was a good decision for me, but it sounds like she had a different option. But obviously it's working out because you got a family together.
That's right. That's right. No, this is awesome. And Keith, again, thank you. We're gonna wrap up. Before I do that, I want to give you a chance. Any parting words or wisdom? Any thoughts that you want to share with the audience before we close out today? I think it's a fantastic conversation. Really appreciate you being here, and I'd love to hear parting words from you before we close out the show.
First, I'd be remiss if I just didn't thank you guys again. I think you guys are great. I love what you're doing. Great to be on the path with you. And again, really appreciate the invitation. And I've enjoyed the exchange just as much as you guys. So please know that sincerely. And the other thing is, it is my hope that some of these words in this conversation resonates with someone out there, because at the end of the day, I want to continue to serve. And I think we talked a lot about leadership, and leadership truly is service to others first. Last thing I'll say is I mentioned a quote, and I just want to be repetitive and mention it again, because we all need to be purpose-driven and really think about why we are a part of the organizations we are a part of, why we do the things that we do, and what gets us out of bed every day. So I'll end with, again, my quote from Nietzsche: "He or she who has a why to live for can bear almost any how." Look introspective and reflect on what is your why.
Awesome. Keith, thank you so much, my friend. Everybody listening, everybody watching, hope you enjoyed that. If you have not subscribed, be sure that you do. Next week, we're going to unpack. Colin, you and I have a lot of work to do to debrief this one, unpack some of the nuggets that Keith just left us with. So with that, everybody out there, we'll see you on the path.
See you on the
Go
path.
Birds. Go Birds.
I'm leaving it in.
You're going to edit it out.